In today's episode, I have a friend who's a very interesting individual, has a broad background from interning at a bank, finance degree, working with Fortune 50 companies in logistics and planning. He's a real estate investor. He's a very disciplined individual. He's an athlete, and he practices the infinite banking concept and has done so for the last couple of years. So you're going to enjoy Michael and his story. I know I enjoyed our conversation, and so thank you for listening. Welcome to the Banking with Life podcast. I'm your host, James Neathery, and I'm as excited as I can be today because a friend from California flew in, and Michael is with us. He just has agreed to share his time with us, and we're excited. I'm excited. We've not met. He's a recent client, new client. We spoke many times over the phone. He's a great guy, has an incredible backstory. You're going to love him, and he's worth listening to. And thanks for being here, Michael.
No, thank you, James.
Yeah. How are you? How's it going? So you literally just came in about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I mean, to the office. He flew in late last night. And
yeah, it's just kind of a surreal moment. I know you don't take yourself too seriously or think, may you are who you are and you're very humble, but it's a big deal for me to be sitting at the same table as someone that.
Oh, stop it.
No, just as a practitioner of something that I believe in and that I'm using, and then to be able to face to face. I wasn't fortunate enough to meet Nelson.
Yeah.
Right. But I got to learn about one of his values and who he surrounded himself with and what he believed in through not only you, because you and Ryan, and just as a listener, podcast listener and YouTube, that I've got the feeling from the beginning that you guys have kind of taken it upon yourself to kind of carry his torch forward. With the large amount of time from listening to you that you spent with him. That's why I say it's like a huge honor to be sitting here, because I didn't have a chance to meet him. But don't take this the wrong way, but it's like the next best thing is to meet you and be a part of practicing the infinite banking, because I believe in it. But then specifically, like with you. So that's a big deal for me.
That. It's a big deal for me too that you're here and that you're a client and friend. My commitment to Nelson was always, I'll do my part, right? Nobody can replace Nelson. Everybody in the infinite banking world knows that and pretty much agrees that is in fact true. A lot of people would like to, but no one can. It's going to take several people to not replace him, but to carry forth his message. And that's, like I said, has been my commitment. I'm going to do my part. I am doing my part. I do my part the best way that I know how, and have fun doing it. And, at the end of the day, I've done this, like life insurance a long time, financial advisory and all that a long time. But the best thing about this is I get to meet people. If I didn't meet Nelson previously, and I got to spend about 16, 17 years with him. But if I had never had the opportunity to meet Nelson, I would never have the opportunity to meet you. It's pretty cool.
Have you ever thought about what would have happened if you hadn't have met him? Yeah,
my path would have continued. I would have been disgruntled with the financial world's narrative that's presented as truth. And I stopped buying into that early on in my career. Mm-hmm. I think I got, licensed in 1991, and I went to work for a Fortune 500 company. They believed in buy term and invest the difference. The guy who really carried that off into multi-level marketing or direct sales came from them, is what I understand. But anyway, I had the same philosophy, and I believed that, right? And then I became disgruntled with that. The market didn't always go one way. And I had an awful lot of clients. Most of them were orphans, because when I went into the business, I didn't know anybody, right? And so most of the clients are orphaned quickly in the financial world. So, these companies will give you a book of orphaned clients and say, hey, go get them, killer. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of my clients and a lot of the orphaned accounts. They never outlived the need for a death benefit. So that's a conflict, right? So within me, it was a conflict. I'm buying into an idea and seeing the exact opposite, right? And so I don't want to say I don't do well with conflicts, but I could not be okay in the financial world presenting a narrative that I discovered was false. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I hadn't met Nelson, or let me say when I did meet Nelson, I was doing retirement seminars, a lot of retirement planning. And I'd have probably just continued on to that path, and which I still do a lot of retirement planning today, just integrate it now with the infinite banking concept. But I wouldn't have as many clients as I have currently. I wouldn't get to meet the people that I have gotten to meet. So my life would be different. It would still be good, right? I mean, I'm a Christian. I do okay. But it wouldn't have been near as fun. I wouldn't have experienced Vienna, Austria. I got to travel with him and his wife and my wife.
Was that the one that you, and forgive me, you said it on some previous podcasts. Was that the one where you were approached of like, hey, we're going, you were like, how am I going to pay for it? And then you were like, wait, then someone told you like, you can take out a policy line.
You do listen. I appreciate that. Sorry. No. I think we were at a think tank. It was prior to the NNI. And a gentleman who's still big in the footprint, he came around to the table and he's like, hey, this is what we're going to do for Nelson and Mary. And, I'm inviting a couple of people to participate. I'm like, well, what would it cost? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, he's like, you have finance it. You have life, and he knew I had life insurance policies, right? So we'll finance it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. See, I mean, I'm the slowest guy in the room, right? But that trip.
Yeah, and me too. But one of the things that I think any good student of fill in the blank of whatever it is can be is not only learn from history and learn from other people's mistakes, but learn from others' aha moments, so that one, you can learn from it, and then you can move forward and then have your own aha moments that someone else then can learn from. So, like there's two examples that you've used prior in your podcast that were aha moments for me. And I was like, well, all right, well, I know now. So now, quite frankly, I'm the idiot if I don't do anything with it. So one of them was the property taxes. The example that you use when you're in you're shaving every morning and then you look up and you realize there's a nose there. So, so this year was the first time for that. I did it a little bit differently. So you want me to go into the...
Yeah, go ahead. Listen, this is unstructured, man. I want to. Absolutely.
So, if you go back, from my understanding, I don't want to butcher Nelson's work in your words, but that everything that you're going to do, you're going to finance, right? So, if I'm paying cash for an item, I'm giving up the opportunity to earn interest, dividend, or some sort of return, because that's a one-time forever. Yeah. Because that's a one-time use of that dollar for whatever it is that you're purchasing. And we can go into more detail about my philosophy on that, or how I see money now, but later. But going back to the property tax example that you use is one. I know that I'm going to have that cost for as long as I own my primary residence, or any of I invest in real estate as well. So for any of my other rental properties, that is going to be a cost associated with that investment that never goes away. And that's a control that I don't have, like that money. Like if you think that you own a property free and clear and that the government is out of the picture, you are wrong, because that property tax will never go away. And there's certain ramifications. If you don't pay that, then it triggers certain events after that will show you who's in really control of that property.
Assets will swap hands, right? Yep.
Yeah. And so I think it was earlier this year, you were talking about, you gave that example of, you realize that every day of you shaving in the bathroom mirror that you looked up and you realized that there was a nose there, and how you procedurally within infinite banking, like, paid your property taxes. So you took out a loan from your policy, right? And to pay your property taxes, because that's a cost that I'm going to incur anyways.
Well, on that particular, I was, there's two different things I think that we're putting together. But I was sitting outside the hospice facility as my dad was in the process of graduating, and it was in April, and that was a federal income tax bill. And it was substantial. And, the CPAs, they'll always tell you, look how much money you made. You should be grateful you got to pay all those taxes. I'm like, what?
No.
I'm sitting in the parking lot. I'm 4 or 5 years into this. Already have several policies. We have financed automobiles, down payments, dental, some education, some medical deductibles, and here's this big honking tax bill. Federal income tax bill is what that was.
Okay.
And then that's the way I felt. I've been shaving my whole life, and then all of a sudden you notice there's a nose on your face. When you think you see something, you just continue to see things you didn't see previously, right? And that's kind of where it was. And it just dawned on me in the parking lot, hot. It's like, got to write this check. And it's like, oh my gosh, this should be a life insurance premium, and and I've been financing taxes ever since, including property tax. But
yeah, so I say, I just, again, being, I think a mindset in general is very good to have in life is to always be a good student, because there's going to be there's a bunch of trash out there, and a lot of unnecessary noise.
I get beat up for talking about the noise.
No, but it's very, my perspective, it's a very, very good thing, because the more you are a student of anything, and if you actually devote time and you're disciplined, and I think that's where another opportunity that, I'm always working on. Mm-hmm. But I think as society, we're not as disciplined as we were in the past, and as disciplined as we should be. Right. So, but with that, as you're learning, whether it's infinite banking, investing, cryptocurrency, fill in the blank of whatever, you owe it to yourself to take off I know everything and I tell people what to do in my day job or whatever it is that you do normally. Yeah. And you have to put on your student hat. And the more you are in that mindset, you can hear the noise and you can dismiss the noise quickly to get to where the core philosophy or the principles of whatever it is that you're learning are. So there's powerful in it. There's a lot of power in the noise as well. And I like it, right? Because not only it reaffirms what I'm doing and what my beliefs and philosophy are.
Nelson talked a lot about classification because of his forestry background. And if you're unaware of the noise, if you hear a message, especially in the infinite banking world, and it applies in a lot of other areas as well. But this is so contrary to the way we think. It's almost counterintuitive. The idea of paying high premium life insurance and then financing purchases. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the exact opposite of what we're taught to do with our money. So, I'm just saying that when you first hear the message and you're exposed to it, it can be difficult recognizing and properly classifying the noise, knowing what is noise and what is not noise.
Yes.
Right.
But if you stick to the principles of my understanding of what you and you've taught me, Nelson's books have taught me, is if you understand that regardless of what you do in life from the day that you're born, you're always going to need a source of capital. Yep. And a lot of it, because braces, cars, medical bills, college, starting a business, buying rental real estate, whatever it is, you will finance it. You will either finance it to someone else, or you will give up that opportunity for that dollar to be used in more than one project or location at the same time. So that's the way I see money now. Even like when you were talking about earlier with the death benefit, is I don't even see outside of the real estate business. So because I have some rental properties again, and I don't even see a dollar. If it was outside of infinite banking, if I'm looking at a single dollar, which I don't have any cash on me. I think I have some silver bullion or something somewhere. But anyway,
you're traveling with bullion, really? Getting through the Gestapo?
Yeah, a couple of just in case. So that's
again, that's digital. It's on your phone, right?
Yeah, but that's something that that I think is important for me, knowing what I've learned about how money works over the last couple of years, and my continuing learning in that arena. That I'm not saying that I don't trust anything, but I think it's responsible to have a portion of hard metals as, again, just like infinite banking is one, it's a great hedge against inflation. Hard money, hard metals, another hedge against inflation. I'm not looking to make money off of, the gold and silver and platinum and palladium, but at least I'm not losing money from the day that a dollar touches my hand. So, but I say that to go back to when I have a dollar, I don't see it for just a dollar, because I can go out and leverage that money. For like going back to real estate, that dollar is really worth $5 to me, because I can, on an 80% loan to value, 20% down, that dollar is really $5, because I can go and leverage the other $4. So it's up to me to never let that $1 go on a one-time use. My goal is to wear the out of that dollar.
That's just on the leverage.
That's just on the leverage, right? So then we go into infinite banking, and one of my first policies, not with you, but I know you've reviewed, and I haven't looked at the conversion rate on my, I'm not going to say their name, but my new policy is and this is me being anal, and the way my dumb little fourth grade brain works is, I know that
we hadn't gotten to his background yet, which is expansive. So,
yeah. So I see a dollar, because I pay attention to my PUA writer letters of what, like, if I make $1,000 PUA premium, that actually turns into almost a $5,000 death benefit today, right? So right there's my 80-20 principle. That $1 is actually $5. That's today. That's before dividends are paid continuously from now until age 120 or 121 or whatever it is in the illustration. So that dollar is never a dollar. Even like right now, like my nieces, that's $5 for my nieces. So now if I know that, again, and being responsible and being an honest banker, that money needs to go there first before I go and deploy that same money in a second arena to where I can, again, I want to squeeze every ounce of energy out of every single dollar that comes across my table or in my wallet.
Are you sacrificing your lifestyle to do all that?
No, actually, it's this is why I think you told me not to share before we went on. So
no, wait, we were talking before the mics came on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting blown away because it's all very, very cool, and you need to hear it. And I'm like, wait.
No, well,
I wanted him to save it for you.
No, well, mine is, it comes back to I need. I'm an operator of my bank, right? I'm the vice president. I'm the president. I'm the loan officer. I'm the underwriter, because I get to choose what's important for me and what venture my next adventure.
Let me interject here. Don't jump over that. That's very powerful. So you're the bank owner. All right. And your bank pays dividends, right? They just don't pay them to you because you're not the bank owner.
Correct.
Right. And then so the bank owner gets the dividends, right? And then you're also the loan officer, right? So you're the gatekeeper of the bank's money, right? And then you're the borrower too. Mm-hmm. So there's more than just those positions in this idea, in this concept. It's very powerful, right? And Nelson talked about it many times, that if you look at the capitalization of a bank, a brick and mortar bank, and you look at their balance sheet over 30 years, and then you capitalize a life insurance policy and look at the result over 30 years, and the difference in the dividend and the quote unquote interest in the cash values, right, that accrues to you, the policy owner, is really what was a profit to the bank if you didn't practice the infinite banking concept. Mm-hmm. So thanks for letting me interject that. You're the bank owner, and you're the lender, and you're the borrower.
It's my house.
I love that.
And my rules. And some people may not be equipped to hear that initially, because we may have crap going on in our own life. We may have credit card debt, overextended in ABC. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses and look a certain way and all these other things. One, you need to clean up your house in that manner, because no one cares what you're driving at the end of the day. I don't give a flip. I have a nice car and I'm looking at getting rid of it tomorrow because I know the status of the market in the used car market and I want to make some money above and beyond.
You can make a profit.
I can make a profit on a used car and the car that I have because of its mechanics and the way it's designed, I can probably make an extra $10,000 on it. And any other.
Do you have PUA room available for that?
Well, it's funny that you say that because I bank with a credit union. I don't like big bank stuff other than my real estate stuff because I need it from a domestic standpoint. I need it.
So it's still the mutual concept credit union.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. But I love my bankers my traditional bankers, let me say that in the credit union, they know who I am when I walk in the door. I can call them on the phone and I get phenomenal customer service. And I actually had my branch manager at my local credit union. I called her actually on Friday and I asked Corey, hey Corey, is it possible for us to rename my account names? Cause I have like multiple money market accounts within my overall like membership. And she was like, yeah, we can do that right now. I was like, well, can you change and it was one of my money market accounts to PUA bucket, like capital P, capital U, capital A, space bucket. And part of it is I wanted her to hear it. Yeah. And I wanted maybe not today or tomorrow, but I wanted her to ask me, what does PUA stand for? Because then that's a different conversation that I look forward to having. But for me, whenever my two policies that I have are full, one's already full until March of next year, so I can't contribute any more directly to it without it macking. However, I know what my monthly expenses are, and I don't have them by memory. I just know, I have a mortgage, one paycheck, my credit card on the next, because it comes back to I don't carry any revolving debt, and I use the out of my American Express card, and I have about 400,000 points on it for when I want to go do something, and I didn't pay a lick of interest. Right.
Right.
So
I love it.
So I pay that off each month, and then my mortgage on the other, and then what's left over that I can't stuff into a policy goes into my PUA bucket money market account. So when the day comes that I can start filling up next year's bucket, or I find a hole that I can dam up with some more money, it's ready to be deployed and put into a system that's more efficient and that I can control and that others can't. So that's kind of what
I want to grow up and be just like you.
No, you don't either. But going back to what we were talking about earlier with the example when you were outside of, was it the funeral home?
No, it was the hospice.
The hospice is like the lesson that I took from that was my property tax bill on my primary residence. I think it's something around like $3,200 a year. And when I got my tax bill this year for that amount, I was going, okay, it was just perfect timing that I just heard James, you talk about it. It's weird. It's just is that third person if I call you James and I'm looking at James instead of just saying you? I don't know. I'm not good with English. But so I took that $3,200 and I was going, okay, if I'm going to practice being an honest banker, I have some other money sitting into my checking account. So I'm going to put $4,000 in my PUA. So the $3,200 for my tax bill plus another $800, throw it into my PUA. And then that same day, I can call them. I just call the company. Hey, I'm making a PUA for this amount. They process it. While I have you on the line, I need a loan for $3,200. So there's two transactions, and I get the money ACH'd into my bank account in like 3 to 5 days, which is well within the time to pay the property taxes. And then while that was processing, again, because I'm a nerd, I go into my credit union and I set up an automated bill pay because I know I get paid every 2 weeks. And so I put myself on a 1-year revolving note for my property taxes. I think it's like $143.26 or something like that, like every 2 weeks. Oh, okay. So there's an automated check that goes from my bill pay that pays back that policy loan. So the minute that bucket is full, I should be getting my next property tax bill, and I'll go and take a loan out for that same amount again the next year. So with knowing the principles of how PUAs, and once that money's into my policy, it's paying a premium and it's working for me while I'm sleeping, while I'm on vacation, while some mornings I don't want to get up and go to work because I'm tired, it's still out there working. So that $3,000 or that $4,000 is never $4,000.
Right.
And it's out there working while sometimes I'm resting. and it never gets to take a day off. So that's the way, that I did that, as well as paying. I think the policy loan is 5% simple interest with that insurance company. I think I'm paying like 6 or 7 is the way I structured it, on an amortized basis, not on a simple interest basis. So I may be overpaying. However, again, going back to like financing equipment, one of the sections of Nelson's book, and it caused me a lot of confusion at the beginning when I heard it, because
equipment financing.
Yeah, because I didn't understand, like, how do I overpay a loan and overpay a premium, and then I had to make it. It finally made sense in my head once I translated it to what Nelson's actually teaching in that example, is that, I'm paying. I'm financing it. I'm going to finance it as if I'm financing it with the bank. And when I pay that loan off physically in my life insurance policy, I will pay that off earlier than had I gone to a brick and mortar traditional bank. So whatever that delta is, that difference, whether it's putting it into my money market account and waiting until I can fund that policy again, or whatever other vehicle, but that's money that I would have given up. That's an opportunity cost that I got to save. And now when that time frame comes, that delta can get thrown right back into my policy and start working, because I will wear you out. I'm a horrible boss of my money. That's my goal.
You're abusive, huh?
It doesn't get any time off. Yeah. You're not getting any healthcare benefits. Like, dollar, get to work.
And your money's like, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have a voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it has the voice that you're willing to give it.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I don't let it. I don't let it be. My goal
believe
is not to be lazy.
I mean, I agree with that. I believe that money flows to its highest value, to its highest use, and so I love that. And you're practicing always velocity. When you practice the infinite banking concept, always leverage and velocity, always.
Well, and if you study, like, whether it's entrepreneurs or successful business owners, that's one of the principles that they do is they're able to either create money out of thin air, actually through creating a product or a service that was needed in a marketplace that has demand for it, or fill in the blank with anything else. But they're practitioners. Once they know how money works, they practice that philosophy, and this is a way that I can control what's important, what my next investment opportunity is. It goes back to the core principle. Whatever it is, I'm going to need capital. So I need to, and one, it needs to be accessible. So I'm not a fan now, with knowing what I know about money, of distancing myself and creating rules and regulations that they're not designed for me, but that someone else gets to make those rules as to when I can touch my own money, for when they say it's important for me, but not when I have a business opportunity, or a friend needs money. Like now, I'd like to give some money away because I can give it away now because I have some other finances or more cash flow coming in the future. But right now is when I need it, and I want to control that. And I don't need other people to tell me
when and how
and all the mechanics. And if the reason I need it fits into their plans, their loan application, what their bank is willing to take on as risk. And so the thing that to kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier, I'm sorry, James.
It's okay.
So I keep reaching for you because it's the Godfather. Like last Friday, I'm helping my mom renovate her house. So that's why I'm in Texas now.
Dang it. I thought you came just for this.
Yeah. Well, this was part of, because this is important. So, because I did schedule it around here because you guys weren't available last week, because I wanted, aside from the podcast, I just wanted to shake your hand. So
you're a good son. Taking care of mom. So,
but part of that, thank you. Sorry. I got a lot to work on as a son. But it's when I'll give you the example. Last Friday, the area that I work in, California, it's kind of a higher profile area, not me specifically, but the area. But I'm driving on a major street. I'm heading west, and there's without knowing the city dynamics very well, for the listeners, but I know tenths of a mile because I drive these streets all the time. I'm about 8/10 of a mile from when I cross a railroad track to the next major intersection. And right as I'm crossing the railroad ties or the railroad tracks, I call my life insurance company because I'm getting ready to come here. I'm helping my mom manage home renovation to our childhood home so we can sell it. And I had already written a check and it was already in snail mail to the contractor for $10,500. So I called my insurance company. I think it was option 2 or 3. I get usually one of 3 people because I wear them out too. When I make PUA payments, like I wear them out. You know, I sold a bicycle that I bought for $800 3 years ago because of importing and import prices and such. I sold it for almost $1,200. So I made, $400 there extra. So what did I do? I took that cash. I immediately go to the credit union and then I immediately make a phone call to the life insurance company. It's like, get it in there and get it working. I don't want this money just sitting idle. So I called the insurance company. I think his name's Kevin. Kevin answers and I was like, Kevin, I need a policy loan. Do all the verification stuff of who I am. Here's your max loan amount. How much would you like? I need $10,500. Okay. Would you like that ACH to the same bank account where your premium comes from? Yes, sir. And end of phone call and haven't even reached that next intersection, that next major intersection. So that took about 2.5 minutes. No, what are you using it for? Our calendar's kind of booked. The loan officer doesn't have any time for you until next Thursday. And then, to go through their underwriting. So one, my money, my control, my bank, and speed. And it was done in 2.5 to 3 minutes and the transaction was in process and that was it. So when you're talking about stress relief, or fill in the blank with whatever, that's control. That is control.
It is.
And
you got a relationship with Kevin at the home office.
Oh, he probably is like, this guy's going to come and he's going to do some, not some fancy stuff, but he's going to wear me out. Like, it's this guy again from California. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of,
I love that.
Yeah. But I mean, as a practitioner, I've repainted rental properties with policy loans. I've replaced HVAC because it gave me some operating flexibility instead of giving up 3 years of cash flow to a property. I financed that through my policy loan because if you know anything about, I love Robert Kiyosaki's. I know I've read probably 10 of his books and Ken McElroy and Tom Wheelwright, Garrett Sutton. You start filling in the blank of all the real estate books and times that I've spent, again, becoming a student. If I want to make, an endeavor into real estate, I need to arm myself with data and arm myself with knowledge and learn from the best. And understanding that an asset is anything that takes or puts money into your pocket and a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Really simple.
Very simple.
Just like infinite banking. It's really simple.
Very.
Right. And I think that's what kind of scares people sometimes is like, no, it needs to be more complex than this. It's just, I need X's and Y's and I need like different color line charts. And I need to, if someone just, used like time value of money in here, I'd feel a lot better, even though I don't know what it means, things like that. And it's like, no, it's really simple. Like if it puts money in my pocket, that's an asset. If it takes money out, it's a liability. So I use my policy loan knowing that I have tenants that are gracious enough to have hardworking jobs and are good people in my houses and in their houses because we're partners, that they pay me every month. And part of that cash flow that I would have sacrificed otherwise goes back to pay my policy loan. They're helping me and I'm helping them.
That's the basis of capitalism, isn't it? I mean, it's at the end of the day, the renter pays for everything. They paid the principal, they paid the interest, they paid the insurance, they paid the repairs, they paid the taxes. You're responsible for it.
Hugely responsible.
Yeah. So, listen, we're like 30 minutes into this conversation, and I'll improve my skills, as we go. But I didn't give you the opportunity to share your background with us, and so I'd like for you to, kind of bring us up to date and give us some background, who you are, where you've been, what you've been doing.
I grew up in a small town in Northeast Texas that no one's really ever heard of. Had a great childhood there, played every sport, known to man. Was fortunate enough to play a little bit of junior college baseball. And always knew that I wanted to go to Texas A&M. I had a friend that when I was like 11 or 12 years old, I got to tag along with his family and took me to a A&M Baylor game. This is when I was in middle school, so maybe early 90s, about the time that you were starting in the financial world. And not to age you, but just to kind of relationally on the timeline, like what we were both doing at that time.
Yeah.
But I just knew at that point, like, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going to school. And so after junior college baseball, I realized that my arm was not going to throw faster than 86 miles per hour, and realized that my baseball playing days were limited. And was lucky enough because of my grades that I was one of, I think they accepted out of like 8,000 applicants, like 200 people directly into the Lowry Mays School of Business at A&M at that time. And luckily I was one of them. So went in, studied finance because one of the guys in high school told me that I couldn't do it and I wasn't like smart enough, or not smart. He didn't say that directly, but he was like, you're not going to do that. You can't do that. People, you just won't do it. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, that's, I don't even know if I'm gonna like it, but you told me I couldn't do something. So guess what?
That's why I'm going to do it.
I'm doing it.
I love it.
Did it, got in, was originally, I was like the first intern at this, at a bank over in, near Highland Park in Dallas. I was one of their first interns in an asset-based lending firm.
High end, posh.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a great opportunity because I hadn't even finished my first upper level finance class. Finance 341 was like the junior weed out finance class, and I'll always remember that class. And it was tough. I thought, God, like I haven't thought about this in years. I thought I was going to fail out. We had 4 tests for the whole semester. The first one I made a 67 on, and I have never studied so hard in my life for a test, and I got a 67. And I was, crap, dude, I have to ace everything in order to make a B.
But the bank hired you, right?
They hired, oh yeah. So in the middle of this, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you make a fair point. So yeah, I haven't even finished this class yet. And they had, we would have a career week every semester. They did have it around the different schools at A&M, the engineering school and all that stuff. And I had met these people from this bank, and I think maybe just personality-wise, they felt comfortable with me, but they knew that I didn't know anything because I'm a college student, and they didn't know about the 67.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, yeah, I ended up going to work for them one summer. Again, they selected me before I finished that class. But long story short, I had to buckle down and relearn how to learn in that class. And for the following 3 tests, every answer, because there was 4 or 5 answer choices on 25 questions on each one of the exams, and I knew I couldn't screw up. So as I would write the test, on every answer choice that was wrong, I would mark out what was wrong and write in what the correct answer would be to verify with myself that I knew I knew the material and I knew what I studied.
Wow. Yeah.
And I aced
like an overachiever there.
Well, I had to, like my back's against the wall, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's either I'm going to give up and crawl in the hole, or I'm going to put my dukes up and I'm going to come out fighting.
Right.
So I chose to fight. So I ended up making like an 89.4, and I went and petitioned with the professor. I was like, dude, look, this is where I came from and this is where we are. Like, I'm that close to an A. Is a great life lesson. She was like, well, it looks like you earned an 89.4. And I was like, you're right. I earned exactly what I got. I didn't earn a 4.0. Yeah. So I'll take my 3.0 and I'll take my lesson and I won't repeat it. So
that is a good life lesson.
Yeah.
And good for him.
Yeah. Her. Yeah. And she was in quotes, she was a Nazi teacher. So she was like, it was my way or I will thrash you. But I needed, we need that in college. We need that discipline. We need it ever more so today in general. But so we went there and then interned, and they offered me a job. They were, basically don't worry about your grades. Just graduate. You have a job waiting for you. And then things changed along the way. Ended up going to work in the beer industry after I graduated. So
banking. I heard some engineering in there.
Yeah, So when I make a decision to do something, I'll get beat up. I don't care. I'll physically get beat up mentally. If I'm going to do something that's worthwhile for me, you're not going to stand in my way.
Right.
And I'm willing to take blows and come out with bruises and stuff, but I'm going to keep getting up and I'm going to come at you. That's just, kind of the way I was raised. And then more so like the way, the character that I want to be.
Yep.
So I have to practice what I want to be. And if that's what I want to be, then do it. and don't talk about it and then not be about it, So,
so banking,
I go work for the beer company
and beer.
Yeah. So I ended up going to work for a beer company, a large beer company at the time, the largest in the world.
Household name.
Name. Yeah. It's on every shelf. It's on almost every billboard, every Super Bowl, everything. And I started out as a temporary employee because I was hired by one of the breweries, but because they were going through labor negotiations, I couldn't start. So they gave me a 90-day temporary contract in their packaging facility, making less than what I was making in college. And I was driving about 160 miles round trip a day. And so I would get home to my sister's apartment. I'd be asleep as I'm falling onto the bed. Like I was dog tired. And then was lucky enough to meet the CEO of the division that I later went to go work for in St. Louis as an engineer in the corporate office, managing like 26 subsidiaries and working in engineering with a degree in finance, not knowing what the heck I'm doing. But it was like, well, it's sink or swim, and I don't like drowning. So let's figure this out. So did that, and then ended up I moved to, so I was there in St. Louis for about 2 years. And then they asked me, because I didn't have a wife, didn't have kids, they asked me there was a position in California that they couldn't fill. And they asked me, / told me, you're moving to California. So I was like, well, I've only seen it on television. So, okay. Wow. So that's how I ended up in California. Ended up, in quantitative analytics, a portion of the time, which I don't know how that happened either. I was in and then it went back to like, hey, an opportunity to come up that came up in accounting. And I was like, well, I hated accounting in college. That's why I chose finance. But I want to learn the ins and outs, the debits and credits of operating this side of the business. So I was like, I'll do it for a couple of years, and I know it's going to suck, but I want to learn, kind of behind the curtain of Oz, like how things operate money wise. So did that, and then realized I'm a caged animal. I cannot wait to get out of the office. It's terrible. So then I went into operations management and quality assurance, which we use a lot of statistics in the production process and what we did. And I had about 30 customers around the coast from Boise, Idaho, all the way up to Washington State, all the way up, down to San Diego and such. So I did that for a few years, and before I went and transferred sides of the business to sales and marketing. But that was kind of, the Cliff Notes version of the first professional arena out of college. But it taught me a lot of how to think and how a big company operates and how they look at problems and how they overcome problems. And it taught me a disciplined way to see processes. And I think that's something that's transferable to anything that I've ever done. Even in my current career, everything is a process. It's just like in infinite banking, like becoming your own banker, it's a process. And if you understand the process, all I want to be is the best operator I can be. And I want to use it for what it is. Yeah. And so that's kind of, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, what do you do currently? Can we get into that? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I work in the law enforcement community. It was something important for me to do. Again, going back to when I worked for the beer company, I was having a hard time understanding what value I brought to the table, as towards the end of my career with the beer company. I had a struggle. I was not at peace with, like, okay, I'm driving home. Like, what did I accomplish today? Like, for me, what did I accomplish, or what did I bring to the table? Did I make anyone else better? Did I make myself better today? And I started asking a lot of those questions, and I didn't really have a good answer to some of those, and that it didn't sit well with me because I'm 2,300 miles from my next relative. I'm not chasing, but somehow I ended up working for this huge, huge company, and I know I have a lot of connections in the company just from that time there. But tangibly, like, I'm just not settled. So I was like, okay, at some point that voice gets loud enough to where you have to act on it. And like, I had never quit anything in my life. I had to research, like, on Google, like, how do you resign? Like, it was to that extent. Like, I had never quit anything. And so I had to research it. I wrote like this what I thought was a professional letter. You know, it's like, I think this is how it's done. You know, it was like, and, you know, and I remember the day sliding it to, you know, to our director, and just the look on his face was like, what? Like, where are you, what are you doing and where are you going? Because at that time in the company, like, a lot of people were being let go because we went through a hostile takeover in 2008, and a lot of really knowledgeable people in the beer industry, because it's a really complex industry because of, you know, the 18th Amendment, Prohibition, 21st Amendment that repealed it, and all the 3-tiered distribution system and all the federal red tape that you have to go through to avoid breweries dealing directly with retailers, which is, you know, is illegal. So it's a very complex industry. And then so you have all these people leaving, and then someone, you know, and I'm no one special at all, but maybe just caught them out of left field, like, well, we weren't expecting this one. This is kind of came out of nowhere. So
I have clients that lived through that and left and became really consultants to the industry in the logistics, and very logistically laden, heavily laden.
Oh yeah, and it's such and that's where, you know, it comes down to like being vertically integrated, and as a company, as you learn, you know, from the book that I'm getting to go home with called iPencil, but all the things that goes into making a pencil, right? And same for the beer industry. There are so many multi-million-dollar companies that live and thrive in secondary packaging and brewing operations and things because a beer needs to make it out into the marketplace, but no one understands. Like there's probably, if you know, there's not one here, thank goodness, but if you looked at a 12-ounce beer can, I could probably tell you about at least like 13 or 14 things about that can. I can tell you where it was produced, at what time of day, by what team, what actual machine actually made this portion or this shape of the can. All those things, they're all like little hidden indicators, and it kind of goes into that, you know, what goes into making a pencil that no one ever sees. You crack it open, you drink it, and hopefully it makes it to a trash can. That's most of our knowledge of it. And
Okay, so then from the beer industry, you left. He was shocked. He recovered. I mean, did you already have a job lined up? And
no, yeah. Well, one, like I left in February of 2013. Christmas of 2012, going into 13. My buddy, who I love to death, he's in law enforcement as well. Daniel and I had been having conversations for about 3 to 4 years that I needed to make a career change. And Daniel and I go to church together, and you know, we met because I got out of the water surfing early one morning because I surf, and I had gotten to church early because there was a 9, I think at the time it was a 9 a.m. service and an 11 a.m. service, and people had already filtered out from the 9 a.m. service, but the next round of people haven't come in for the 11 o'clock service. And I got there early, the board's on the car, I walk in, and I'm just sitting on the couch, you know, just kind of, there's no better moment than, you know, a morning surf and you get out of the water. Like there's no more like relaxed feeling of contentment and everything. It's phenomenal. But I'm just sitting on the couch like, this is a great day. Like I'm at church now. I've already been in the water. It's not even 11 a.m. yet. Like it was a great day. I'm probably going to take a solid, hour nap when I get home. It's going to be great. And then Daniel comes outside, and that's how we met, and we're friends to this day. But the Christmas before I quit, I was going with him and a team to India on a missions trip. So we were there for about 2 weeks, and then that was kind of the defining moment of, all right, I need to make a change. So I came back. I was still processing that, and then I started going through the whole application process in law enforcement. I mean, it's you think a loan application is tough. Like they dig up, everything that you've done or contacted in the last like 10 to 12 years through the background phase, without all the other polygraph stuff, the psychological interview, like all the bar is extremely high. It's just for the guy or gal who responds to your house at 2 a.m. Like you have no idea how much time, money, and effort goes into making sure that person is the right person or better than the alternative. And at the time I was 33, so I'm on the older side of a normal recruit. And I knew that, but I also know that I'm an athlete, and I know what I put into my body, because I was always learning about nutrition and how to really make my body perform at the level that I wanted for the longest amount of time, because I do love surfing, and I'd like to have the ability to do that as long as I can until I can't anymore. And so I've always kind of been in that mindset. So I know that I eat clean, I'm in fairly good shape, but I got to compete with these kids, and I got to smoke these kids, so
challenge accepted.
Yeah. So that was my, so that was kind of my mindset going in, and then it ended up the only one agency that I applied with, I actually made it, and it's a phenomenal agency. And then I left that agency. I started with them in 2013, and I left in 2016 because I went to another agency in the area that I live, and I've been there since. So so I spent most of my career on the streets, before I came to my current agency, in a very violent city, and in an even more violent section of the city. And you get to see you get to experience. God, man, it's just the worst in people sometimes, and what another human being is willing to do to another one that they allegedly care about. It sometimes it's a little harder to process. Of just because you have all these questions like why do some people maybe out of ignorance, their life is chaotic. It's just flat out chaotic, and it's like, man, like I want to show them a different way. Like you don't have to wake up to yelling and screaming, or you don't have to wake up to whatever it is. Like there's a different way, and kind of with that same mentality is the way I see infinite banking. Is like look, I have a finance degree. I interned at a bank in college. I worked for a Fortune 50 company. And through all that, I wasn't taught about money, how money actually works, not what others perceived, what their perception of how it works is, like how it actually works and what we're giving up for the opportunity.
Well, how did you excuse me, get exposed to the idea of infinite banking? Was that like on your path of trying to discover how money works, or, take us down that road?
Yeah. A large portion of that was because as I started getting into real estate investing, I think naturally you start, again, like most people start with the most defining book that they read, in real estate is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Mm-hmm. And when you start going down that path of understanding what an asset and a liability is, like we talked about earlier, and then understanding what types of, he calls it cash flow quadrant. So whether you're an employee, you're self-employed, or you're a business owner and an investor, that by definition there are certain advantages and disadvantages for being in each one of those quadrants, right? And then if you marry that with how money works, and the tax code, and you realize that the tax code is really a set of incentives and tax credits and a lot of benefits if you're willing to participate and come alongside the government to help them achieve their goals. There are certain benefits that come along with that: depreciation on real estate, certain amortization schedules, cash flow, all these things that you get to participate in, that if you are not a business, you don't get the opportunity to participate in. Mm-hmm. Right. So as I'm starting to, to understand more and more about real estate, one of the core principles was I need to understand how to use other people's money, right? OPM, and then just understand money in general. So that's kind of, I think, where it started, is when you start looking at creative finance, or you're looking at master leases, or, wrapping a property up with a master lease, or doing some creative financing, or raising funds. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You're going to need a source of capital. Yeah. Right. So along the way, it became, researching about creative finance, and then into somehow through, the algorithms of YouTube, just like a lot of other guests, and you've said it too on the podcast, is YouTube's really powerful at suggesting what they want you to watch next after they they get a grip as far as what you're your current viewing is. And then it became how to pay off your mortgage in 5 to 7 years. So then I started looking at, okay, well, I understand how the principles of amortized interest versus simple interest, how mechanically they work. And yeah, you can do that. Yeah. You just have to be disciplined. You have to be cash flow positive. You have to, have good credit. You need to be able to access a line of credit in some manner to do that. Then you have to be disciplined about it.
Discipline.
Right.
You mentioned discipline twice.
Discipline.
Discipline.
It's all about discipline.
Yeah.
And, and I'm a firm believer in the Jocko Willink, just the title of his book, Discipline Equals Freedom. Couldn't be more true. Because again, it knocks out the noise. And if you're disciplined in whatever area that it is, then there's a lot of freedom in that, because you're knocking out the noise, you're more efficient, and you have more time to concentrate and devote to whatever it is that you want. And that's a lot of freedom. So to going back to the way I found out about it is, I was looking at the paying off your mortgage in 5 to 7 years. And then, cause I had just bought, somehow I was able to afford, with a single income in Southern California, a place. It's a small place, but it's a place that the bank owns.
It sounds expensive.
Yeah. It's so expensive. But if and then you understand, if you're looking at a principal interest curve, a basic principal interest curve, and where they intersect before, before you're actually paying more principal than to interest, because it's their rules of the game.
And they're
right?
getting paid first.
The bank will be repaid their interest before you have the opportunity to stack up your capital, right? And to pay down your principal, right? So then I started I knew some of those things, and then I'm a visual learner. So when I see a chart and I see the curves, I just want to manipulate the crap out of those curves. So, right. So I was like, well, all right. So my mortgage is X. Well, I'm going to play X plus a few $100s, because I want to get that intersection of those curves as soon as I can, without having to really sacrifice to a great extent my lifestyle. So I started doing that a little bit. And then I started buying real estate, and then going through that and understanding, and I came, again, through more learning of how to make. I don't want to be a slave to money. I want the money to be a slave to me. And then I think it was, I don't know what specific video, and I don't want to share it on here, but it has a green background or green logo. Anyway, not yours, but someone else's. But they were introduced to the topic of, of banking with life insurance. And that was kind of what is this? Is this is worth exploring to figure out what the heck this is. And then when I started learning more about life insurance and the characteristics of it, I was going, man, I think there's something here that's going to fit a void that I have. And so I studied that for about, because this was in 2018, for about 6 or 7 months. And then I had a friend who was I don't know all the designations. There's a bunch of letters after his name, CF something, a bunch of stuff. But
yeah, and there's a bunch of them available.
Yeah, so I ended up getting an improper. I told him what I wanted to do is like, hey, this is the thing. I want a high cash value life insurance policy that paid the most aggressive form of life insurance, because I need to use it as a bank. And he's like, okay. Well, the next thing I know, what happens? I get thrown into an IUL unknowingly, because I thought I was doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. All right, because I'm practicing it. I was paying $1,000 premium fixed a month.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it didn't stop there. It's like, okay, now I'm in it. I continued to learn, and then eventually, I found you online. And then I started going like, okay, IULs are a cannibal at best, right? So I'm like, okay, so I'm a cannibal right now. So how do I get out of this category and get into a properly structured policy that is going to produce what I believe it should produce? Because I had good intentions, maybe 60% out of ignorance, 40% out of doing the right, out of knowledge, and 60% I just didn't know. But now I know. So again, it kind of comes back to discipline. Now that I know that I made a mistake, I need to correct it and pivot and get into the correct policy. So that's kind of how I found you and the team. And
Well, there was a couple of policies between the IUL and us, wasn't there?
Yeah. Okay. So that was the first one.
And I want to say that individual, I'm sure, had the best intentions as well.
Yeah. And I love him to death. And I still, we play volleyball and stuff down on the beach still. But it wasn't what I wanted, and it negated the principles that Nelson taught. But I didn't know that initially. But when I found out, okay, it's time to do something. So the second one, when I realized like IUL is not the answer, that it needs to be a whole life policy from a mutual company with a high PUA, right? All the characteristics of becoming your own banker. I started a second policy that I believed was properly designed.
Was this about 2019-ish?
This was June of, it went into force June of 2019. Mm-hmm. And then as I can, again, continuing to learn, I'm listening more and more to your podcast. And then I'm listening to, some of the videos of Nelson on YouTube where he was, the long form interviews. I think the longest one's like an hour and 12 minutes where it's just him sitting in a chair. Mm-hmm. And oh God, like that, I would have that playing in the patrol car. Cause I a lot of times, like I'll have, like, that's my classroom time between all the chaos and stuff. And then on my commute back and forth to work, that's classroom time. That's free time for me to learn. So I would even have a YouTube video up, not paying attention to the video, but just listening to the audio in the car. Yeah. And I'm just like, man, one, it's a calming voice amongst all the chaos. So there's a benefit right there, regardless of the topic, right?
Easy to listen to as well, right?
Yeah, great storyteller. And I think that kind of plays into my very, grew up a Christian, but, and not to say but, so I grew up a Christian, period. New sentence, right? So, that the apostles and the disciples were really good storytellers, because that's how communication took place in biblical times. Like that's, the rabbis taught, like it's telling a story, but it's telling the story, not one word missed, not one word taken out of context. Like that was communication. And for me, seeing Nelson was like, he has a lot of those characteristics. Like he's able to break down a concept and a principle through telling a story. And telling the story, right? When it comes to infinite banking. Very simply. Yep. But simple doesn't mean that it can't be powerful.
No question. Yeah.
And so I think then there's not too many people, I think in general, that have that ability to just tell a story. And that you said it before, he can make you feel like you're the only person in the room when there's a room of a couple hundred. And it's soothing to hear, but it's soothing knowledge. It's kind of a weird kind of, pot of soup there. So I got into, I think just prior to that, I'd started my second policy with the mutual company that I believed was, again, now 80% knowledge, 20% out of ignorance or so, with the mutual company that I believed was more in line with infinite banking. And then I was like, you know what, I know better. Why don't I just go to the source? Like, I'm not fortunate enough to have met Nelson, but there's this James character out there that spent a lot of time with him. So I just need to pick up the phone and just talk to James, also known as the Godfather. So so that's kind of my journey. So now, like, you helped me. I think it's August now, so I think June is when we went in force with my now third policy, but now I canceled, or what's the terminology? I surrendered or did something with one of them.
Yeah, we replaced one. You had to, the IUL was replaced.
It's long gone.
With the whole life. And then there's a second whole life. We replaced one of those. And I'm not a fan of replacement. I mean, we had that conversation. We had several conversations.
Yes.
And they were really good conversations and very appreciative and thankful to have them with you, have had them with you. So I'm just saying that what you had was good, but could be improved, and that's exactly what we did. We improved.
Well, that's why I made the call, because sometimes some messages in life are not easy to hear. That hey, I had the right intentions, but it's not as efficient as it should be, but and I think in men it's even harder is to admit that you did something that was not wrong, but just out of ignorance, you made a mistake. So I'm like, all right, James. So if I made a mistake, the best thing we can do that we can't do is replace it yesterday or fix the problem yesterday, but we can control today. Let's do it.
And I think we kind of went through those options, right?
Yes.
Of what, here's where you're at. Here's what you're doing. This is what you want to do. And this is how this is going to work for you. Mm-hmm. Right. And it wasn't really going to be, a tragedy, but you're in a much better position. Yeah. But you're still early in too. Just a different company, different structure,
yeah, but I'm on their website almost every day.
Are you really?
Oh, I don't have I have my computer in the car, but
you wear them out.
I wear them out.
Perfect.
So I have Excel spreadsheets for each one of my policies, so that I know from my PUA standpoint, because I'm an Excel nerd. So I have across the top is every policy year, on row 1, column A through AK, right? And I know what my PUA is allowed for the year. And every time I make a PUA payment on the portal, I go in and I update the spreadsheets because that's my bogey. That's what I'm trying to chase. Yeah. And I think today it's on the one that we set up, we're like at 20, I think I have $21,000 left. And I already got loosey-goosey in my head. I know I have 7 in the pipe. So we're going to be at 13,000 before, probably in the next 6 weeks. So I'm already chasing that down because my goal is 0. That means that I can't put any more in this year, but then I can start filling up my credit union, new nickname on my account, my PUA bucket. So I'm going to start filling that up. So when the day comes, get over there and get to work.
I appreciate that, and it's the discipline. You're very disciplined. You mentioned you're an athlete, you're very athletic, you're very disciplined. And it shows, whenever people share their financial situation. I've done it a long time. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I can tell you in about 30 seconds how much discipline someone has. It's very easy to see. It's just like in your profession, you're rolling down the streets at the tenths of a mile, what's going on in your town, right? So I'm just saying that you're very disciplined. And I also want to say the adjustment that we made, the correction that we made is going to serve you well over your lifetime.
Yeah. And I know, James, that I've given up just through the way you have to surrender a policy. I know I lost money, dollar for dollar. I know I lost.
Right.
But the proper thing to do is stop it now, because that's only going to get, the longer you delay making that change, it gets more and more expensive. It's a harder and harder pill to swallow. So do it now. The quicker you can get on the right track, it goes back to discipline equals freedom.
That's right.
Be disciplined enough to admit you made a mistake and learn from it, because if you don't learn anything from it, that scenario didn't mean anything.
Right.
So learn from it and do something about it. And if you don't, and it kind of goes from people in my life. If you're going to drag me down or you're not going to have discipline for yourself, I don't want you around me. Right? Life is tough enough. So I want good people around me. This is why it's seriously, it's a big thing for me just to talk to you, is that you're kind of a maintainer of my discipline. Right. And that kind of, like one of my favorite people that I worked with in the beer industry told me and he was a mentor for me. He was one of our small men's group leaders in church in St. Louis when I worked there. But Mark always told me it's one, there is a great responsibility to be mentored. And then it's even greater to mentor someone else, because that's how it gets transferred from generation to generation. Right. And so I kind of inserted myself into your life of knowing that you spent so much time with Nelson. He mentored you. And then if this is a little bit of you being able to mentor me and me admitting that I need to be mentored in this arena, and I'm sure there's more things that you can teach me, that I've got it. I don't care if it's by a fingertip on a coattail. If I can just hold on, right? And I'm just going to hold on for dear life. So, and then good things should happen, because you're not trash, and you're not a poor influencer. You're doing the right thing for the right reason, and those are people I think in general we need more of around people in anyone's environment.
Absolutely. I agree. I want to be around winners. I want to be around people that are teachable, that are learning and have learned.
And I want to be around people that have failed, because they're, too. But but failed in the with the right mindset.
Yes.
There's a caveat and there's a difference between being chaotic and irresponsible versus calculated and failures and learnings through failure. Like those are great learning opportunities. So I want you to.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that. I mean, it's philosophical, but it's the same. It's similar philosophies. It's like, and I've said it before. It's why would you want to do business with somebody who has an opposing philosophy? Right. I mean, you can learn from them, and you can even do good business, but over the long term, you want more or less like-minded, free, independent thinking people, but you want to have some alignment in philosophical foundational beliefs, right? Because it's like you mentioned earlier, and I say it all the time, you get around negativity, and I say it with the noise. If you get, too deep into the noise, it is very difficult to get that off of you.
Yes.
And it's like in your profession, and we kind of had a brief conversation before we, turned the mics on. It's like, my gosh, how do you see the worst of the worst, right, on a daily basis? I mean, how do you stay balanced and have a great attitude? You have a great attitude. I mean, how do you maintain that balance? How do you maintain the sanity? How do you maintain the free, clear thinking and the balance in your life? And you had a very good answer to that. And it went back to your personal beliefs and you being a Christian. And which I always think that it's like, I don't know, how does a non-Christian even make it in the world? How do they make it through life?
I've tried, like, and I'm a private person. I have.
And I don't want you to say anything.
No. I'm not, and I don't say it in that context. Is that I'm fine showing like extrovert qualities, but there's a part of me that I just love being by myself.
Sure.
Right. Because I like the quiet, because it gives me, because that's where I can learn. That's where I can work on me stuff. Yeah. Right. And I don't know how we got on. Well, I forgot what your question was now.
How do you maintain, prior to turning on the mics, how do you maintain your balance and your...
Because it's not, I mean, it's not about me. Yeah. So if you understand that philosophy that like, I'm a child, right? So so God gave me, a set of guidelines of how to act, love thy neighbor, like the 10 very basic things, right? And I'm his. So that's when I start the game. When I breathe my first breath, that's who I am. So if I understand that, then I just live up to his expectation that he already has for me. So that's really easy. It's easier for me. It's still tough because I've been in some catastrophic events at work, and I've seen even worse that some of my coworkers have been through. Without getting too disgusting, I've had to hold a person's brain and into his cranium while we're giving CPR in the middle of a gang neighborhood, things like that. That I'm glad that I got to take an opportunity, that I was the person called on to be there instead of anyone else, because the public should never see that. They shouldn't, because that's not easy to see and that's not easy to deal with. And I'm glad that somehow, because I'm not a traditional like alpha male that you probably think of in my profession at all, but I know that I'm not there just solely on my own strength, so I can deal with it because it's not about me. So I can be there and I can do the disgusting things and the very like, oh God, what if I touch him? Like, get your hand in there, you're going to keep this guy alive, Yep. So, and you have to be able to compartmentalize that and just work, because that's your calling for right now, and that may change. But for right now, work. And it's pretty easy. So just do the basic things. But yeah, it's knowing that. I mean, I don't, and that's just that's probably the tip of the iceberg as far as like my faith, because I'm pretty quiet about it, because I think a lot of my faith should be displayed in how I act, and a lot of like what I say, and then more importantly, what I don't say.
Yeah, there's probably something wrong. I mean, just me talking out loud that, if you have to go around saying, hey, look at me, I'm a Christian, there's, probably Probably some work that you need to do.
Yeah, probably the most compliment is like, I always knew something was different about that person. Like that's all that needs to be said.
Yeah.
Right? Because that just means that you should stick out. In this world, you're going to stick out, and you should.
Yeah. Well, I know when, early on in one of our earlier conversations way back, when law enforcement came up, but we had a conversation about peace officers, and that's the way you phrased it, and I phrased it, and I grew up. My mother was in law enforcement for a long time, and back in the day, I mean, even all the badges and everything said, peace officer. They didn't say law enforcement. It wasn't as militarized as it is today. So I appreciated that about you, greatly.
I think it may have just slipped out, but I think that was just, and that's how I refer to it. It's not police or it's not deputy. We're officers of peace. That's how the Constitution refers to us, and it kind of it goes back to the 10 Commandments. If we know that we're peace officers, just be that. Just do that. Just keep it really simple, because the world and the judicial system and legislative branch and executive branch, if we know anything about government involvement in just about anything, they're really good at inserting red tape into a situation and making really simple things very complex. So you have to kind of fight just to keep things simple sometimes.
And that's what they do, right? Oh, wait, they charge taxes along the way, too.
Yeah, that they're technically not supposed to. That was supposed to be sunsetted after the war, but that's another subject.
Oh, you're talking about the income tax. Yeah, 1898. Yeah. 15 years later, still need to pay for it.
Yeah, but again, that's the rules. That's the rules of the game for now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And it's okay. I mean, if you're going to play the game, you need to know the rules.
Right.
Especially if you want to win.
And then you have to have enough courage to get off the sideline and understanding the rules. Now go play the game according to the rules. Mm-hmm. The best that you can. And then be ready whenever, stupid football analogy, but, you're in a running formation and you see there's 8 in the box. Probably the best time to audible out of that and go where they're not, right? But it's understanding the rules and then understanding what your strengths are and what their weaknesses potentially could be and exploit them in a legal manner. Right? It's not...
Take every unfair advantage.
Well, again, it comes back to being a good student, though, James, right?
Discipline.
So this is what they're saying that I can do. It's up to me whether I put myself in a position to do those things, because it's okay if I don't, and it's okay if I do. You choose.
Yep.
Pretty simple.
I love it. Listen, we've been going on about an hour and 15. Is there anything that you want to share that we haven't covered?
No, the overall idea of becoming your own banker, because I'm not smart. I'm no different than anyone else. Is just need to understand what it is and why. Understand your why. That's just like when I'm dealing in real estate and stuff on the side. Is I stick to my calculations. I know what performance metrics that I'm using. And I understand why I'm doing all this. I understand why I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm working on evaluating a project or a house or whatever it is that I'm looking at because I want to put in an offer. I know I could be doing other things. I know. But I have to have enough discipline if I'm going to hold myself to a standard and hold myself to a goal that by the world standards it's going to look odd and it's going to look strange and it may look unpopular. I don't care. I don't. I'm not trying to please anyone else out there. I'm 41. I'm not married. I have no kids. If the day comes,
that's an opportunity. Lots of lovely young ladies listen to this podcast.
No, I'm
Southern California surfer.
No, I'm a hot mess. I work a lot. I have goals for myself, and a lot of times I know that comes at a sacrifice. Because I don't put myself in other positions to where. I hate dating, right? I just don't. That's one thing I loved when I was in India. It's like, arranged marriages?
How convenient.
Yeah, if I could just tell someone what was on my checklist and they could just go out and shop and then they would just bring her to me and then we would just magically get along. That'd be fantastic. I don't know what world that is, but that would be fantastic. Yeah. So, but I know that, I have goals and they may be, they're my goals, but they're goals. And I know, going back to the whole reason that I'm here about, I've read Nelson's Becoming Your Own Banker because of you. I've read Warehouse of Wealth because of you. I'm going to read iPencil tonight when I get to Mom's house. And like that's what I enjoy, because regardless of going back to leaving like final words is, dude, we as people have to understand, like, know your place. And I say that in terms of the financial system is not built for you, right? Our idea of it, 401ks, IRAs, self-directed, all this stuff. If you look at mechanically the way it's designed, it's to separate yourself from your money. That's if you're just looking at pure distance. So if you're going to tell me I have the opportunity to defer my taxes in my hardest working years when I'm the healthiest, with the opportunity to pay an unknown tax on that money at some defined point in time in the future that is not dictated by me, and that could change.
It will change.
Right? Instead of 59 and a half, it could be 62. It could be 63. It could be 64. All that meantime, you're going to need money. You're going to need capital to live, to buy groceries, fill in the blank. It's going to cost something, and someone's going to pay for it. And if you want that money, you're going to get less of it, because one, it needs to be taxed. And if you need it in a timing manner to where it doesn't fit up with the SEC guidelines or any IRS standards, then guess what? There's going to be penalties, and they're just chipping off the shoulders of the money that you worked for years ago for you to maybe get a few pennies out of that. And, I say that probably as more of a magnified version of it, but for me, if someone was to break it down in a manner like that, like, hey, James, I got a great plan for you. Mm-hmm. So you make $100,000 a year. I'm going to give you the opportunity that before you get a piece of that monthly income, I'm going to take it. I'm not going to let you touch it. And by the way, you've never met me and you never will. And I'm going to have your best intentions at heart, I promise. And if you ever need this money, I'm going to make it really, really difficult for you.
There are no guarantees.
There are no guarantees, right? And then maybe you'll have enough, if you talk to the right people, that you may live a quasi-okay lifestyle in the years beginning when you worked so hard for all that money to actually be able to enjoy life. I'm going to strap you down and make it really hard for you to actually enjoy life. How's that sound?
Yeah, I don't want to charge you fees along the way.
I'm
going to get 1/3 of it at least.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
However, if you know that, and you know that there's a different way, shame on you for giving all of your time to someone else, whether you're an employee, and I'm an employee, so I'm not bad mouthing being an employee, but you have to understand where we are. So I know just because of our current tax structure, and this is what kind of creates some of my discipline, but and it makes it tough really times too when I hear it, is if I work a 12-hour shift, the first 6 of it is for the government.
Yep.
Right? So from 6 a.m. until noon, that was all for someone else. I didn't make anything. I made zero. From noon until 6 or 6:30, that's when I start making money for me. And then alongside of that money, well, then there's gas taxes and sales tax, and then there's mortgage payments, and then there's fuel costs, and there's grocery stuff. So when you really break that down, the money that you actually do get to keep is it's a very small proportion of your overall opportunity. That's just where we are.
Yep.
Right. So if you know that and you accept that, and you realize that along that way there are opportunities for you to separate yourself from your money even further that you worked so hard for, and 50% of it went to someone else. If you wanted to control what you got to keep, if you had the opportunity and the knowledge to learn about a vehicle that can help you keep that and make you less dependent on others, for me personally, that's I would want that at least to spend the time conservatively, just to learn about it. Like, I owe it to myself to learn it, because I give so much of my time for someone else. Yep. That I should not be shy about when it comes to doing something for me, coming up with excuses that I'm too tired because I worked too long today, and I got soccer. I got to take the kids to soccer at 7. I don't get home until 9. Well, buddy, it looks like someone needs to get up earlier in the morning or stay up later at night to do something for you, because you give up so much of your time, and then when it comes to doing something for you, you make excuses for you. Mm-hmm. Stop. Have a little bit more value in yourself. Create some discipline. And do something about it. And there's a lot of energy in that and freedom. That's where I get a lot of my energy from. Whenever I do get down, it's just like, no, like last week I worked 60 hours, so 40 and then 20 hours of overtime.
Wow.
Right. And so I went home one night last week on time, but without any overtime or anything. 2 weeks prior to that, we got called out on a couple of investigations in the middle of the night. So I've had like 1 day off in 14. Does it suck? Yes. Is it my job? Yes. Suck it up and get in there, because people are depending on your abilities and skills to investigate this incident to a high degree of aptitude. Right? You got to be able to speak for victims when victims can't speak, and the victims don't care that you're tired or that you just got home or that you were on your way home.
Right.
And you stink because you've been working for like 16 hours and you got to turn around and shower at the station and put some different clothes on. That this is just what I had at the office right now because I was in a different uniform of the day, but I got to go. And yeah, it sucks in the moment, but it's what you do with that opportunity. One, do what you're supposed to be doing at work, right? And then if you're compensated to the point where it exceeds your monthly expenses, then you owe it yourself through discipline to do something with that capital. Put it in there, put it in your policy, protect it. Creates an immediate estate. You can access it. You're not giving away. You're giving away the money, right, in the form of a premium, but you still get to access it. The insurance company owns that premium now, but you get to access it through a policy loan. That is the collateral from the insurance policy. They are obligated by contract to uphold their contract. I have the contractual right, but not the obligation to get that capital when I need it. So exercise it to buy assets. That would be my, I think, overall words is, stop buying liabilities. Just embrace this concept, practice it like no other, and buy assets.
I like it. At least discover it. I mean, You said earlier you've read the Becoming Your Own Banker because of me, but you had already purchased 3 high premium, high cash value policies without reading that book.
I knew that it was right. The concept was right. Now, I didn't know the concept, IBC. Yeah. But I knew that okay, this is what I've been looking for. This answers so many questions.
Yeah.
When you talk about, oh my gosh. Like because I think last week or 2 weeks ago maybe, I can't remember. Last week was your Q&A that you released, and then there was Nurse Kathy, and then I think maybe between there Ryan was here, and you guys were talking about like I think page 58 of some of whatever the topic was. I don't know if you guys were answering YouTube questions or not. But I'll kind of make mental notes and I'll go back and read that page.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, okay, to reaffirm, my initial learnings. And all I'm doing is doing what you and Ryan do. You didn't read this book once and I got it all figured out. You keep referring to the guide, right? It's because that's a blueprint. It's a guide. And so from time to time, as time grows on, our memories are not as good as what it was when we were younger, or a specific question or a scenario poses to where you need to reference a specific section in a book that has all the answers that we have to go back and refer to. So that's a good practitioner, right? Whether you're writing the policies or executing it as an operator, you got to go back and understand the why. So like I've done several other things. I know like my car insurance premium went down because now in the detail that I work, I have a take-home car, right? So my insurance premium went down $86 a month. Well, guess what? If you look in my, and we can look at it afterwards, but if you want to look up in my policy, you'll see 2 $86 premium payments because right now, I know that that's my savings, and I don't want to lose that opportunity of that money can create. So what do I need to do? It's really simple. Things are always simple. Get it into the policy, protect it, get it start working, because I may need a day off, but it never gets a day off. I'm a horrible boss of my money.
I love that.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. $1 is $5. $1 is never $1. And if it is, look for a way to wear it out and make it at least $2 before you give up that cost. Right? You got to find a way.
Yeah.
You got to find a way. And then if there isn't, that's fine. But that was a good practice.
Right.
And now the next time you have an opportunity for $5, all right.
I love it.
It's $20. Where is that? Where can I do with that $20? Because that $5 is $20.
Yeah, you know, working 60 hours a week. I mean, it better be working 24 hours a day. Your money, right?
I owe it to myself.
Yeah.
If it's working less than I am, I'm gonna have to have a discussion with that money because it's not working very hard. Right. I'm trying to set the example.
I love it.
Yeah. And we didn't get into a lot of it, but that's just some of what I've been.
Well, maybe you have to come back.
Well, you guys are family now. I've met the whole team, so you guys can't get rid of me.
Yeah, look, he flew in last night, got hung up in some storms in North Texas, sitting on the tarmac in Oklahoma in 4 hours, or something along those lines.
Oh, yeah, just sitting on the plane when everyone got off, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start watching the Formula One race on my phone because I've already missed the live version of it. So that's what I was doing last night while you were with your family. I was in coach with my knees banging on the seat in front of me watching a race.
Perfect. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming down. I've greatly enjoyed it, and really you have an open invitation to come back anytime, and
thank you.
We'll carry on and get into other things. I mean, we're going over 30 minutes or so before we even got to your background.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's all mine. I'll do better next time. All right. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. All right.
Thank you for joining us on the Banking with Life podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and click on that little notification bell. Otherwise, join us on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher for weekly content.